before I share my screen, apparently. So welcome, everybody. We are so glad that you all could be here today. We are, again, this is a great format. The virtual format works out really well on weather days that aren't as good too. So glad you all could make it. We have lots of great things to cover today in our local food systems virtual town hall. There we go. How's that look, Erin? Okay, perfect, good. So again, we're very glad that everybody could make it today. And we got lots of great things we're going to cover today. So we'll go ahead and get started here. So here's our agenda for today. Again, we're glad, we're really appreciative of all the speakers that are going to speak today and all of you for joining also. So you can see the agenda here. First, we'll have the Kansas Department of Revenue. We'll give a 5-minute update on Kansas food sales tax changes. And that'll be Lisa Lycum Jones. Then Jacob Larson with the Kansas K-State University Pollution Prevention Institute. We'll talk about food waste reduction efforts in Kansas, which will also be lots of good information. Then we'll have Kelsey Olson, the Deputy Secretary of the Kansas Department of Agriculture, will give us a local food systems related legislative update from KDA. And then Trey Kuhlman, I'm sorry, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. We'll be giving an update from KDHE on local food systems related legislation as well. Then we will take time to, we'll make sure we take time for some questions today. I'm guessing there will be questions on some of these topics. So we'll make sure that we have some time for questions. We'll have all the presentations first so that we can make sure we get through them all. And then we'll do questions after that. Then we'll have a time of discussion on grants that are ongoing. So KSRE has our Regional Food Systems Program grant that we want to make sure to talk about, or partnership grant, sorry, is the P. And then if any of you have any grants that you want to talk about, we would love for you to do that as well. And then we have a time of announcements as well. So I am going to go ahead and get started. This next slide, the next slide here should show as a, oh no, I pulled up the wrong slide set. I just realized. I'm going to close my, I'm so sorry about that. That's what happens. Let me see. Sorry about that, everybody. Well, I'll pull it up in, I just want to make sure this recording will work, which is my concern. So let me see, how do I do that now? Sorry, everyone. Okay. Oops. Okay. Hopefully is it working okay?
Yep,
okay.
It's working great.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Lisa Lycum Jones with the Kansas Department of Revenue. I work with special events. Did we lose the audio? January 1 of 2025.
Can you hear it now?
Sales tax rate
Yes.
to 0%. It's important to note the sales tax on food and food ingredients and certain prepared food is not being repealed. Instead, the state sales tax rate is being reduced over time to 0. The reduction in the sales tax rate on food and food ingredients and certain prepared food only applies to the state tax rate. All the local and use tax still apply. The KSA 793602 is the definitional statute for the Sales Tax Act. Section 5 of the bill amends the definition of food and food ingredients found in the subsection N to provide food and food ingredients means substances, whether in liquid, concentrated, solid, frozen, dried, or dehydrated form, that are sold for ingestion or chewing by humans and are consumed for their taste or nutritional value. Food and food ingredients include bottled water, candy, dietary supplements, food sold through vending machines and soft drinks. Food and food ingredients does not include alcoholic beverages or tobacco. It's important to note that the rate of sales tax to be collected on a food product is based on whether the food is considered a food and food ingredient or a prepared food. And this is determined item by item. Again, here is the definition that you can read. Otherwise, you can look at it as most grocery store food items fall into the food and food ingredient category. Foods packaged by a manufacturer, fresh, raw food that may be purchased from a bulk vendor or from a local seller would fall under food and food. Prepared food. The definition can be found in, again, the 793602 section 000 means prepared food sold in a heated state or heated by the seller. 2 or more ingredients mixed or combined by the seller for sale as a single item, or food sold with eating utensils provided by the seller, including but not limited to plates, knives, forks, spoons, glasses, cups, napkins, or straws. The plate does not include a container or packaging used to transport food. So what is a prepared food? Here is your definition as found in the statute, and it can be that A, B, or C that is located here on this slide. Flowchart is one of your best tools that you could use to determine what your item is categorized, whether it is non-food, which would take the retail sales tax rate that you have in your county now. It would be either a food or food ingredient or prepared food. This is a flow chart that gives you the yes, no answers. You can work your way all the way across it. This is an appendix in the KS 1223. There is also an additional appendix there that is what I call a matrix that actually lists your specific item. So feel free to get out onto www.ksrevenue.org, look under the statute of KS-1223 and use the tools that are available for you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Lisa. We really appreciate you sharing that information. So we can imagine that there'll be lots of questions about that. And I apologize about the audio at the beginning. I'm not super tech savvy, so sorry that the audio cut off at the beginning. And Lisa is on there. So, but let's hold questions until after all our 5-minute presentations are done, to make sure that we have time for all our presentations. So, and I will note too, that Lisa will be giving a full hour presentation and time for question and answers as part of our farmers market / direct to consumer workshop series. And her presentation will be on February 8th from noon to 1. So I also encourage people to attend that if you want to ask more questions than we have time for today. So great. Okay. Thank you so much, Lisa. We really appreciate that. I know that's a topic of great interest for people.
Lots of information, you bet.
Great. Thank you, Lisa. Okay, I'm going to turn it over now to Jacob Larson with the K-State Pollution Prevention Institute. And let me see. Jake, are you able to unmute?
Yeah, are you able to hear me okay?
Yep, perfect.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, well, let me just say thank you for allowing me to be here and inviting me. So yeah, I'm Jacob Larson. I've been working with the K-State Pollution Prevention Institute for just about a year now, a year and 1 week specifically. My background's actually in electronics manufacturing. So this whole food waste realm is super new to me, and it's been a whirlwind of information. So constantly learning those. So thanks again for allowing me to be here, trying to keeping on with learning. So with that said, I will be presenting a very, very high level overview of some of the things that we are doing, trying to reduce food waste. So if you go to the next slide. Okay, so just a little bit of background on PPI. We're housed within K-State's College of Engineering, specifically within engineering extension. And the big point of what we try and do is to help improve the sustainability for Kansas institutes, communities, and institutions through our intern program, through trainings, webinars, and a variety of other kinds of technical assistance. And a big point that I want to make here is that we are fully 100% grant funded. So if you could go on to the next slide here. Right, because we're grant funded, that really colors what we actually try and do in terms of our food waste reduction efforts, as grants are all very particular. So thankfully, though, we have had some luck with getting grants that allow us to do some food waste reduction work through USDA, EPA, KDHE, and a few others. And the general gist, though, behind these grants is that we try and do some background research on what the situation is. We do some actions towards what we learn, and we share those results to try and promote replication of those. So next slide, and we'll talk a little bit about action there. And the general gist of what we try and do with acting is obviously we got to figure out what's actually happening in the first place. So we get qualitative and quantitative data from partners through observations of their operations and through waste audits. Now, next slide. The thing, though, is there's going to be some waste, obviously. And if there was no waste, we wouldn't really be here. And so with those waste streams that we see, that we identify, we're trying to figure out what to actually do with those. But it's if you go to a partner and you say, aha, I found your issue, you're creating waste, stop that. And, it's not as simple as that. There's a lot of difficulty on what's actually happening, the specifics, when you try and source reduce a waste or try to feed hungry people. So next slide. And then the following after that, next slide. How do we actually try and do source reduction of waste? How do we actually try and get some of these waste streams that can't be source reduced or fed to hungry people or fed to animals? How do we get those to industrial uses? Or, how do we actually go on down that food waste hierarchy? And we do that by, well, first, identifying the local champion to actually push these initiatives forward. And we provide tools to those local champions. And so ReFed, I'm sure everybody here is aware of ReFed. They've got a fantastic list of methods and solutions to waste. But it's also very generalized, though. And so what we do is we'll look at a lot of these tools and localize them for the partner to make sure that they're actually feasible, that there's actual infrastructure there available to, to actually do some of the food waste donation, for instance. So we consolidate those tools that are localized and we provide those to the champion, next slide right there, which is going right back to developing a report for partner entities with recommendations. And so just to tie that all back together, what we do is we get a grant and we learn about the issues at hand and we act on those issues by getting data, evaluating that data and finding what methods to act on the waste that we find. And then we provide those opportunities to partners, and then those partners, well, we recommend they actually act on those, but we don't have the say to actually do those. So with recommendations, and then we try and follow up later to see if those recommendations were actually acted on and if they helped or not. And we follow that through into the share phase where we try and promote what worked to other entities to try and replicate best practices. So next slide. And so here, just to tie this in, that framework is something that we've applied to a number of different groups. So educational institutes, we've worked with KU, we've worked with Johnson County Community College. We've applied this to grocery stores and restaurants, hospitals. Wilson State Park's a little bit of an odd scenario, though. But what I'm trying to get across, though, is that general framework is applicable in a number of different sectors. And there are opportunities to reduce waste throughout, as you can see on the right-hand side there with a few opportunities I pulled out from our case summaries. And so if you're interested, we do have case summaries on our website that you can view that really goes into details on this is what the waste was, this is what we recommend doing to reduce it, and this is the data on what could actually be reduced. But generally, though, the successes that we've had are in terms of people are very interested in reducing waste, and the difficulties, though, is that there's not necessarily a lot of labor available to act on those issues. So next slide. If you have any questions on this very, very, very high level overview, you can always send me an email. Or if you're looking for those case summaries, you can also send me an email, or my supervisor, Nancy Larson, though we share the same last name, we're not actually related. And just a shameless plug, we are also hosting webinars for food waste reduction opportunities for schools K through 12, as well as for colleges at the end of February. So if anybody's interested, please reach out, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Jacob. I know I learned a lot too. Even those of us that work in K-State, we don't always know exactly what everybody else is doing. So hopefully this was helpful for all of you. I know it was helpful for me too. So a great resource that we have here in Kansas. We're very fortunate to have Nancy and Jacob and their group working in this area. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, and again, we can, if you have questions, I know people are putting some questions in the chat, so please keep on, you can put questions in there, and then we'll take some questions after we're done with our next two presenters. So next up, and I believe I saw Kelsey join earlier, so I hope she is on, in fact. So Kelsey Olson is the Deputy Secretary of the Kansas Department of Ag, and we are very glad to have you here today. And she is going to give us a brief update related to legislation on local food systems related legislation from the perspective of the Kansas Department of Agriculture. So Kelsey, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Londa. Well, I am just going to kind of talk off the cuff. So our previous presenters had wonderful presentations, and we've been working on the fly since legislative session has started. So with that, I'm going to premise what I'm going to share with you is as of last night. Today it all changes again, right? So as of last night, there had been 276 bills introduced either in the House or the Senate during the Kansas legislative session thus far. So we are constantly trying to pour over them, make sure that there's, we're gleaning them for anything that might be relevant. At a very high level, there's nothing that I'm probably going to share today that is earth-shattering, unfortunately. I know we've all worked on local food systems for a while now, and the state's making progress. We still have room to grow and to expand. So we haven't lost hope, but there's no looming bills at this point that are change anything with the food structure or access to local foods. But that said, there are a couple things that a couple bills I thought I would point out to you and share, and then just kind of share like a minute of my general thoughts. But so the first one, I think this is probably the most relevant one that I could find that's out there. It's Senate Bill 60, and this provides a tax exemption for anyone who is having custom meat processed for their own personal consumption. So if I take my beef into the local locker plant, I have that processed, this bill would cut off that sales tax on that particular item. That is currently on the Senate side in the Assessment and Taxation Committee. I have not seen it have a hearing yet, but that one is floating out there. The next one is Senate Bill 70. This one creates a staggered increase for the minimum wage in our state. I believe, what are we at now? $6 an hour? That's why I don't know where we're at. I think $6. I'm seeing some acknowledgement there. So this bill creates a staggered increase over the next 4 years, starting at $7.25 up to $16 an hour by 2027. That is with Senate Commerce. Again, don't know where we're at, don't know that it's had a hearing, but it's been introduced into committee. And then probably even less pertinent is House Bill 2124. This would allow businesses to sell cereal malt beverages by the drink on Sundays without requiring a 30% gross food sales receipt, and that's in Fed-in state. So across the state, in order to sell a cereal malt beverage on Sundays, you've got to have 30% gross food sales, aka you can't just be a bar without any food. And so that would change that. That bill would look to change that statute. Generally, I've had some conversations with some legislators, provided some input just this week. there continues to be interest in the Kansas Food Code and how that relates to dogs in establishments. I know this is, it's been a sensitive subject as pets or companion animals become part of our families and we go places and do things with them. They seem to want to take them everywhere, yet there are some health concerns when they come to food preparation and food establishments, including breweries. Beer is considered a food and by definition in the state of Kansas. So that is a very high level, nothing specific to specifically local food as we think about it, but our food system as a whole, some elements that might touch that or impact us. And yeah, I would pass it over back to Londa.
Great. Thank you very much, Kelsey. I know I'm personally interested in some of those bills, so I'll be curious how they all turn out. So thank you very much. That's very helpful. For those of us that don't, pay constant attention to what's happening, it's very helpful for you guys to share that with us. I appreciate it. So we wanted to make sure that we had kind of the full picture, I think, or fuller picture of the Kansas local food system when we talked about legislative updates. So we also asked the Kansas Department of Health and Environment if they'd be willing to share an update. So Trey, and is Kuhlman, did I say that correctly? Okay, good. So Trey Kuhlman with the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, and I'll share the screen again so you can see his title, but he is going to be giving us an update from the Kansas Health Department. So I'll turn it over to you, Trey.
Well, thank you, Londa, and thank you all for having me here today. I am going to be honest, first and foremost, to repeat and not be too much of an echo chamber with Deputy Secretary Olson. Not much is happening on the world of local food at the legislature right now, but it's never a dull moment there, and there's a moment's change, and we could see something. And so I don't have much in the way of any bill and legislative updates in the sense of any bills that are on the floor or showing up for hearings right now. But it's something that we're going to continue to survey and watch and be ready for if it does show up, and be in contact with our stakeholders and people involved that make that this matters too. But right now, the KDHE's priority is continuing our funding and our operations when it comes to supporting local health food, local nutrition, and continuing to watch for anything that might show up. I'm sorry that it's short, but that's just sometimes how it is. And I'm always available for questions or contact or any sort of support that might be needed.
Great. Thank you very much. Like Deputy Secretary Olson said, if you guys gave this report next week, it might be totally different, or next month or tomorrow,
Exactly.
the report might be different. So great. Well, thank you very much. That's, I think it's very good I know, like I said, I benefit personally, and hopefully the rest of us all benefit too from hearing from both of you, and just to meet both of you as well, I think is very beneficial. So thank you for your time. And I'm going to stop my share so I can see the chat too, because I see there's some chat coming in. So yes, thank you. There is a question. So now is a good time to ask questions. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat, or you can just ask them. I don't know if you guys can read that question. I can read it out too. I have a question about House Bill 2061. Are either of you familiar with that bill? It would create a sustainable agriculture division in KDA.
Yes, Eileen, hi, thanks for asking about that one. So this one it's very vague and broad, and it does create a new division of sustainable ag. I met yesterday with the legislator. Their single focus is digesters on manure digesters on dairy or swine facilities. There is some federal funding out there that is getting ready to become available, and it's geared towards being able to access that federal funding. That federal funding would allow for nonprofits to apply. So if you read through that, it mandates the Department of Ag to create a greenhouse gas emission nonprofit entity. And that's primarily to then procure grants and focus that for farmers and ranchers and finding new ways for them to be more sustainable and broaden their options. So it could be really exciting. And like when I first read it before we had conversations, like, oh, okay, what are we doing here? And then I was like, okay, the sustainable ag piece is much broader than what they are thinking. And so we have to be careful with our language. So I'm not sure. I think it's going to get probably a hearing next week.
Okay.
But it's going to it might look a little bit different. And it's a little bit more narrowly focused than what we would like to think about.
Yeah, no, it seems like a really cool opportunity to create that division. And I think they're right. The Inflation Reduction Act is going to create a lot of opportunity for funding to, mitigate climate change through agriculture. But yeah, I was disappointed to see how narrow it was. So I'm curious, when you all get to testify, if you can gently suggest expanding it to include other elements of sustainable ag.
Yeah, I've definitely flagged, right. So for anybody who doesn't know, like we have this department, we have to go and get approval to testify on a bill that's not ours from the governor's office. And so it's in the works whether or not we'll be testifying, but we're certainly engaged in the conversations leading up to that hearing about how we could help create something maybe even bigger and better than what was initially envisioned. So,
Okay,
and
well,
I do need to add, I did
reach
not.
out if you want some ideas.
There you go. Cool. You've got some friends out there, some of those bill sponsors that I think would be
That's
interested
true. That's true.
to work with you.
Okay.
There was a committee hearing this morning. I failed to mention this on the Farm and Food Coalition. I wasn't able to attend, and it was my intent to listen to it over the lunch hour. So I don't have anything to report on what was discussed at that particular session.
Thank you very much, Eileen and Kelsey. Kelsey, there's another question here. Any conversations about dogs at farmers markets related to the food establishment? Sorry, I can't quite read what that says there, but food establishment place in Kansas.
Not specific to farmers markets. And this has just been real tentative. It largely stemmed from a brewery being found out of compliance last summer that has stirred up some community groups. But I honestly don't know how we intersect with food and farmers markets and dogs. I mean, I know we help promote farmers markets and we have regulations for those selling at farmers markets. I don't know how that intersects with dogs. So, in our food code. So if somebody else knows, jump in. Otherwise, I'll take that as something to go and look up.
Yeah, I can talk to that a little bit, but I don't know if anybody else from KDA's food safety group is on, but my understanding is that, well, I probably shouldn't talk about it because I'm not, how do I say, I don't have the right words to say exactly what is in the regulations, but I'll just leave it at that. So I'll defer to you on that, Kelsey. Sorry.
Sorry, I don't have that information. I should probably be familiar with that. So I'll find that out.
Yeah, I'll say that it's complicated, but go ahead.
Londa.
Yeah,
This
go
is
ahead,
Deb.
Debbie.
I was just gonna say, as a market administrator, at this point, our market has its own policy regarding dogs at the market, but it has come from experience. So let me just say, we did not have any policy, and then we had issues, and then there became policy.
So I can tell you that our food safety and lodging program right now is currently in process of updating the Kansas food code. So we adopt the FDA food code for Kansas, and one of the updates that is in the process of being changed right now, food establishments, broadly speaking, food establishments can apply for a waiver to allow dogs on exterior dining patios. That is through a variance process. Under the new food code, dogs could be allowed without at exterior patios. They would be allowed without applying for a variance. So making it easier for that business entity, that food entity, to allow them in on the outside areas, not in food prep rooms, not in the main interior dining rooms. But so I assume that kind of drifts over into the farmers market, out the open air farmers markets.
Yes, no, good discussion. Let's take one more question, I think, and maybe we can take a few more too, but the next question there is House Bill 2032 updates, and this is ending the lifetime ban on SNAP for Kansans with more than one drug felony conviction. Are either of you following that one?
Hold that when I saw it pop up, because I'm not familiar whatsoever. I don't know, Trey, if you've
Well,
any-
Kate, we're watching it, but that's not a KDHE program. That's something we're watching. I don't have much else I can say besides that.
Great, thank you. And I see there's some other, okay, there's a lot of discussion about the dog issue. So yeah, that's definitely that's definitely an issue that's involved, and there's a lot of, thoughts on both sides of that, I think. So does anybody have any questions for any of the rest of our presenters today? And if not, I think most of their contact information went into the chat, and it's in the slides, and we'll share the slides online as well as the recording online. So if you have any other quick questions for any of our presenters, please go ahead now, or otherwise we'll keep moving on. All right, great. Very good, good. So thanks again to all our presenters, and thanks to all of you for the good questions. We appreciate it very much. And I think it's, there's definitely lots of good discussion, like I said, in the chat. And thank you, Lisa, for putting your contact information in there. And I'm going to go back to our screen here. So again, thank you to all of our presenters, and I know that they'd be happy to try to take other questions that you might have too. So thanks, everybody. So we just wanted to give you an update. We've been doing these town halls every quarter for the last little over a year now, and we've kind of been talking about our regional food system, K-State's Extension's Regional Food Systems Partnership Grant, pretty much every quarterly update. And so we're very glad that, we were awarded it back in October. We were able to tell you that it had been awarded. So now we're in the process of hiring the staff to make that project or program, that grant run. So we are in the process of hiring our program administrator position. And I just want to say we had a very strong pool. We're very fortunate here in Kansas to have a great pool of people that are working in this field and that are interested. So thanks to all of you for sharing that with people that you work with. And was very gratifying to see the strong pool. So that's great. And then hopefully we'll be able to post the program coordinator position soon. So we'll definitely share with all of you when we do post that position as well. So hopefully by April we'll have more to tell you, but just wanted to make sure to let you know that at this point. So does anybody else on the call? I know a few of you have, I emailed a little bit with some people. If anybody else wants to share any kind of local food systems related grants they have going on right now that they want to share information about. Like I said, I know back in October, we were able to share a number of them that had been funded in Kansas, which is great. And if anybody wants to share, please go ahead.
I'll share. This is Emily Lyson, and I represent a couple of things. So I'll talk about Douglas County Food Policy Council just received a $800 grant from Kansas Food Action Network. We will be using that to help fund, give stipends to people that with lived experiences to help us kind of expand our board. So help to pay people who might not be able to, get to a meeting easily because of childcare or other jobs or things like that. So And then we are working on that countywide as well to make that be kind of a countywide thing, because I think we have to go through those channels first before we can do those stipends for a position we will have then on the Food Policy Council. And then other hat for Lawrence Farmers Market, we haven't been awarded it officially yet, but we are like pretty sure we are applying for a $25,000 grant with Live Well Pathways, which is a farmers market grant. So that we are hoping to have a market ambassador program and a BIPOC new vendor scholarship program. So those are the two things we're writing that for, but the money's there. We just have to like finalize our packet. So it's pretty slam dunk. We're also writing a Live Well grant for the Food Policy Council for communications and technology updates, which should also be a pretty good slam dunk. And then same in local foods as well. Our Just Food, our food bank has a really cool program called the Chop Shop, which takes gleaned food and then turns it into prepackaged food that goes back out to our food bank. And they are also involved in the Live Well program and are getting a big cooler to like expand that program and expand what they can offer and do at their culinary kitchen there. I think that's all. Great wise.
Great. Thanks very much, Emily. That's great. Sounds like lots of great ideas that maybe other markets and other groups can maybe possibly, try to emulate those in their locality too. So thanks for sharing. That's great. Ryan, did you want to share anything? I see you got on the video, so happy to have you share.
Thanks, Londa. Good morning, everyone. I'm Ryan Gertzen-Regier from the Kansas Rural Center. I've spoken, I think, in the past about a grant that we recently received from USDA AMS, which we're calling Establishing the Central Kansas Food Corridor. This is a project looking to start a new food hub entity along I-135 between Sedgwick and Saline County or Ottawa County areas. So I just want to drop in the chat here a link to our webpage about that. We have a webinar. I'm trying to, most of my job here is working to bring farmers together for the food hub and start looking at business structures and how we're going to create that. So I have a meeting coming up on February 7th. It's a Tuesday evening online at this point because I'm trying to get people from the whole 12 county region to join in. But if you're interested, we'd be love to have you attend. We also have a project mailing list, not our full, Kansas Rural Center mailing list, but specifically updates for this project that I hope to send out probably 4 to 6 times a year, kind of keeping up to date with that. So you could join that mailing list there on the website as well, if you would like to. And there's a map of the target area that we're looking at. So that's it for now, unless anybody has any questions.
Great. Thanks very much, Ryan. Yeah, I have to say on days like today, virtual meetings sound like a good idea. In person is always nice, but sometimes virtual is a good thing too. Great. Thank you. Tori, would you like to speak? I think, or maybe you had your video on the whole time and I didn't notice it, but.
Nope, Londa, I just have a quick announcement. Brittany Grother is not in today, but I am stopping by. My name is Tori Laridan with the Kansas Department of Agriculture, and I want to let you guys know that our special crop block grant will be opening up here later this week. If you're interested in the program, please look at our website. I'll drop a link in the chat, but it'll be opening up here very, very shortly. So we look forward to seeing applications this year.
Great. That is good to know. Thank you, Tori. I appreciate that. Barb, would you like to speak? I see you.
Hi. Yeah, I'm going to be heading off to another meeting soon, but I wanted to go ahead and give you some updates, and I'll put it in the chat also from our child nutrition programs. We had talked in the past about our Farm to School grant for 2022, and we are in the process of awarding at this time 12 of our program sponsors with funding in their subgrants to be able to go ahead and add local grains to their meals. So from scratch cooking is being encouraged with some training involved with that. And then we do have the Local Foods for Schools cooperative agreement program, and that is a 4-year project. And so we have our coordinator, Erin Davis, that is working with us through this project. And we have Harvest of the Month that we're going to be doing, also regional bus tours that are being planned. And then there will be a Farm to School Institute with our Nebraska neighbors and our Missouri neighbors. That'll be coming up in the years of 24, 25, and 26. So we are in the beginning stages of putting all the plans together for some going forward items that we have with that. And we did just recently submit then the Local Foods for Schools grant agreement program that we are getting some information back from our Meats to Schools project that we have proposed. And so we are anticipating funding to be able to issue stipends then to our programs that will add then local proteins then into their programs. And we're just awaiting some final how-tos to put that one together and get it out there. So lots of things happening.
Great. Yeah, no, there's a lot of great things going on. This is really exciting. I'm very glad to hear of all these things. Wow, lots. Okay, Barb, just put it in the chat. Thank you, Barb. Marilyn, do you want to speak, or do you I see you put some great stuff into the chat, but you don't have to speak if you don't want, because you put a lot of good information in there. But if you want to unmute, you sure can.
I can speak if someone has some particular questions they want to ask about establishing a commercial kitchen within a grocery store or within anywhere. It has been a learning process for me. We've had a lot of delays with getting the equipment, getting workers, getting pieces and parts to put things together. Hopefully, we're down to the final stages and within 30 days should be operational.
That's great.
As far as being able to rent the kitchen out to anybody who wants to use it to produce jams, jellies, cookies, cakes, whatever that they want to do to a retail setting. So
Great.
if anyone does want to have any information, I'll put my email in the chat and they can contact me directly.
Great. Thank you very much, Marilyn. And thanks for all the work that you do. I know you do lots of great things at your market, including Double Up Food Bucks and other programs too. So we really appreciate all that. That's great. And Debbie, if you want to speak, you can too. I see Debbie put something about the Allen County Grow received a grant too. Do you want to speak about it, Debbie?
Just that I'm very thankful that we had the opportunity to give a pitch to be able to receive the mini grant, and that the pantries have been very, very appreciative of the ground beef that they have gotten.
Great. Thanks so much, Debbie. Good work. Erica, did you want to share something?
I do, yes. I just wanted to share quickly that the Rural Grocery Initiative recently received a Rural Cooperative Development Grant from USDA. And that's really exciting. So this is a 1-year grant. We're going to be looking at how the cooperative model can support grocery stores throughout Kansas, whether it's a consumer cooperative or a purchasing cooperative. So we're going to be kind of developing our own expertise around the cooperative model this year, exploring the feasibility of purchasing cooperatives, providing technical assistance, developing various technical assistance materials. So yeah, we're very excited about that.
Great. Thank you very much, Erica. And I know you guys will be sharing more information as time continues on that too. So thank you. So thanks everybody for all the great announcements. Those were great information about grants and upcoming projects that you all have. I think I know I really appreciate hearing what other people are doing. I think it gives us all ideas of things we could do or how we can partner together better. So I know I really appreciate those updates. So thank you everybody for sharing, and thanks for all the good work you're doing. I'm going to go into a time of some announcements, and I'll give some announcements from the K-State Extension and K-State side of things. And then hopefully we'll have time that you all can, if you have other announcements you'd like to make too, you can too. So I just wanted to mention K-State Kansas State University, not necessarily Extension, but we've had for a while an urban food systems, what's the right term, a master's program in urban food systems. We now have a graduate certificate in urban food systems, and it's completely available online. So you can take, if you're interested in getting a graduate certificate through K-State, and you know, it's in urban food systems, but from my perspective, it's really food systems. You know, there's a little bit more of a focus on urban food systems, of course, but I know some of you on this call, in fact, are you know, in this program and you know, are working not only in urban areas, but are working in other areas too. So so hopefully, so that's something that, if that's something of interest, you know, we encourage you to look into that. I put and I'm sure my colleagues will probably put the links in the chat for the more information on that program. And there's a webinar recording that you could take a look at as well. So, so if you have questions on that, feel free to ask us and we can get you more information on that. Okay, so a number, and sorry, this is a full slide with lots of stuff on it. And I sent this out by email too, so you've seen all this, but just wanted to make a few, how do I say, kind of clarifications about some of these too. So you know, and we used to always do in-person farmers market workshops. KDA and KSRE work together on these in-person farmers market workshops. Then COVID, you know, drove it to online. And so we've continued to do that online. And this year we're going to be doing it again online. It'll be February 6th through the 10th. And so it's from noon to 1 every day. It'll be, you know, webinar format so that you can just join remotely from wherever you are. And I know somebody's already put it in the chat, the link, and they're probably putting it in again, but I do want to just mention, so Monday, the 6th, we'll be talking about accepting SNAP at your farmer's market and then the Double Up Food Bucks program. On the 7th, it will be selling meat and eggs at the farmer's market and direct to consumer. So not just the at the farmer's market, but also direct to consumer. So our colleagues from Kansas Department of Agriculture will be presenting on that. I mean, we know selling eggs direct to consumer is kind of a hot topic right now, so that'll be covered also. And then on the 8th will be sales tax. So like I mentioned, Lisa Lycum Jones will be giving a full hour presentation on the sales tax for direct to consumer sales and at the farmers market, and there'll be time for questions there too. So encourage you to attend that, or farmers market vendors and people selling direct to consumer, encourage them to attend that. On the 9th of February will be food safety. So the food safety and lodging program of KDA will be talking about regulations for selling direct to consumer, any sort of processed or value added foods, and including probably talk a little bit about produce as well. On the 10th of February will be Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program training. So and I put this on the slide to make sure I mention it. In the past, previous people that had been taking Senior Farmers Market Nutrition vouchers, you know, previously did not always have to get to go through a full training. Like they could just review the information and then sign and send it back in, and they could accept those vouchers again, you know, for that next year. This year, KDHE is changing the payment system, like, so it'll be a little bit more automated how farmers will be depositing their checks. So this year KDHE is going to require that all vendors that are wanting to accept the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program vouchers, that they have to take an interactive training this year. So it means you can't just watch the recording. You have to take, you know, you either have to join this webinar, or KDHE will be adding other webinars as well. So Courtney Koning with KDHE will be scheduling other webinars as well. And we're also trying to get some in-person ones. KSRE is working with them to try to get some in-person ones scheduled too in various locations. Because we really would love, you know, as many farmers as possible to be able to accept those Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program vouchers, but everyone has to be trained this year. So we wanted to make sure I wanted to make sure to call that out, because that is something that has changed for this year. So And if there's questions on that, I can try to answer them, but Courtney Koenig is the one who's, coordinating that with KDHE. So this year, like I mentioned in the past, K-State Extension always did these worked with KDA to do farmers market workshops in person across the state. So this year we decided to do focus just on meat marketing because that was kind of an area of interest of our local foods group within K-State Extension. So we do have these 3 workshops planned in person in Wichita on February 3rd. Olathe is February 24, and then Parsons is March 3. And we can get you that link to register for that. But so if you register for that meat marketing workshop or for the farmers market / direct to consumer webinar series, you can get your scale tested for free. So we'll be doing scale testing at the February 3rd in Wichita, the February 24 in Olathe, and then the March 3 in Parsons. And we'll also be adding some additional locations. I know we're planning to add one probably in Northwest Kansas and in other parts of Kansas as well. But when you register for either of those workshops, please make sure you indicate how many scales you have to be tested and where you're located. And then we're working with KDA's Weights and Measures group to get the right locations where they have testers and where there's scales needing to be tested. So when you register, please make sure you indicate how many scales you want tested, and we can work on that. Okay, then there's a KC Area Food Business Conference is coming up in Olathe in March, and again, I think my colleagues might put something in the chat on that too. We have a number of produce safety trainings coming up that are all listed there. So you're very welcome to join any of those as well. So you can register for that. All right. Does anybody else have any other announcements of upcoming events that you might have that you'd like to share? I'm going to stop sharing again so I can see everybody. And I see lots of stuff in the chat here. Okay. All right, great. I see some stuff coming in. Very good. So, okay, and if anybody wants to unmute, they can, but otherwise, we appreciate all the information that everybody's putting in the chat. Good job. Emily?
Lawrence Farmers Market is hiring a new market manager. If you want to work alongside me and you'll work closely with Erin and potentially Londa doing Double Up Food Bucks, we are hiring part-time permanent position. You can reach out to us at the farmers market or me individually, Emily at lawrencefarmersmarket.org. It's, part customer service, part administrative, part social media. So we have a lot of great applicants, but would love to find somebody who's really passionate about local foods for sure.
Great. Thanks so much, Emily. And and Trisha, I see, thanks for putting in the Cultivate KC Annual Farmers and Friends meeting. I know that's a great event as well. So, lots of good information here. And yes, Sedgwick County is having a local food producers conference on February 4. So thanks for that as well. The contact for Senior Farmers Market Nutrition is Courtney Koenig, and I don't know if their website's been updated yet. It hadn't been updated last I checked. So, okay. So in the 5 minutes that we have left, thank you, Erin, for putting in the chat. We would like to, and I see a question here. I want to make sure I answer that before I lose it. So we're not doing a meat workshop in Northwest Kansas, but we will be adding scale testing in Northwest Kansas. So we have to wait until we know more exactly how many scales we have that need to be tested, and then we'll try to find the best locations to do it. So I apologize that we don't know yet, but we will definitely be sharing that with you all. If you indicate that you have a scale to be tested, then we'll make sure we coordinate with you to get a date and a time for when your scale will be tested. So hope that makes sense. Sorry. Okay. I'm going to share my screen just one more time here. So I know my colleagues put the evaluation in the chat. So we really do appreciate your feedback. We try to we really appreciate your ideas, in particular for topics that you'd like to have covered next time, and we try to cover those topics as much as we can. We've gotten a lot of great ideas from you all of topics to cover, and we, you know, like I said, we try to incorporate those. So appreciate your evaluations that we can continue to improve these and to, you know, provide topics that are helpful to everybody. So our next virtual town hall will be on April 26th at 11 a.m. The registration will be, I think my colleagues will put it in the chat so you can take a look at that. So you can put that on your calendar for next quarter, and I know we'll have a Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program update then, because Courtney asked me if she could speak. So she'll be speaking in April for sure. So and again, the slides and recordings will be available on that website there. And there's my contact information. And we have 3 minutes to spare. So I see lots of good information going into the chat. I appreciate it. So if anybody has any other questions or comments that they'd like to make, please jump in. Otherwise, thanks again to all of you that presented today. Thanks for all the great questions and the great announcements that everybody made. Really appreciate it. And again, we'll have the recording and the slides will be posted on our website if you want to, you know, because definitely there's been a lot of links for put in the chat. So there's lots of great information. You can get that from the website afterwards. So. All right, good. Well, thank you so much, everyone. And hope that everybody is doing all right on this snow day today. Well, it's snowy here. I don't know about the rest of the state, but hope everybody is doing well. And thanks again, everybody, for joining.